Hello and welcome back to Ontology Explained. I'm Casey Hart, philosopher and ontologist. And today we're going to continue the series on how you can become an ontologist by responding to a question from Diogenes Clay in response to my last video. The question was long. There are 4 parts. They're really substantive. And I thought, I bet more people than just Diogenes have this question, so let's respond to it, just make it a video on its own. Question 1. I'm an older guy, 40, trying to figure out a career pivot, got my MA in philosophy and PhD in religious studies, so I'm a philosopher primarily with some interdisciplinary background. I mostly do like religious epistemology, blah, blah, blah. What I don't really have is a background in formal logic. Took one class in it an eternity ago. Data science, quantitative methods. My research was qualitative all the way, and is making a pivot into ontology realistic for someone like me at this point in my life, or is the retraining requirement going to be too steep to be practical? Really good question. Obviously, there's more details about your life that I would need to know to really say whether you could be an ontologist or not, but at a surface level, this question says nothing that would make me disqualify you as an ontologist. I'm not worried that, oh, you're 40 or it's been too long since you've had an intro to formal logic class and that you haven't done a lot of like quantitative data science. The age thing in particular, not an issue at all. Ontology, 40 is not that old. I'm 39. I cannot think that 40 is super old. That is young. You got plenty of time to pivot. So don't let that be the issue. In terms of like pivoting later on, that is more a question about how you personally are disposed. So if pivoting and changing your career is terrifying and it's something that you don't want to do and it freaks you out, then it's probably not the right thing to do. If pivoting into ontology and semantics gets you really excited, motivates you, you're passionate about it, then heck yeah, go for it. Right? I think it's more about, you're as young as you feel or something like that. Like follow your dreams. If your dreams are taking you to ontology, you have not classed out of it or aged out of it by any stretch. On the formal logic and quantitative methods fronts, not a crazy hit against you. Yeah, it would be good if you had more formalization skills. I suspect from what you said, like doing religious epistemology, you're still going to have at least some formal skills. You would be surprised how much more formal most philosophers are than like the average person that's out there. So you might be selling yourself a little bit short. That said, if you wanted to shore up some of your quantitative or formal skills, then go take a coding class. Like go find, a Python course or a Clojure course or a C++ course, something like that. Learn how to do a little bit of programming. That's useful for you both like professionally, but it also kind of gets you back in that formalization mindset. How do I learn new vocabulary and set things in the right syntactical structure? You could even just pick up an intro to logic or a modal logic or something sort of textbook and go through some of that to practice that. So I think no harm and probably some good can come out of doing a little bit of practice, but not strictly necessary. Instead, you should be thinking, what are the things that make me awesome, right? Like me, Diogenes Clay, the Greek philosopher who lives in the agora and a giant clay pot. What makes you special? What makes you especially good? Take those skills and bring them. My guess, if you just from reading between the lines and what I know about people who have taken philosophy, you're going to be someone who is good at asking questions, clarifying your views, communicating, figuring out what's important and crucial in an issue. Those are all things that make for good ontologists. So if that's right, like lean into that stuff and don't worry about not knowing as well, like how to do quantifiers or something like that. You'll be just fine. Question 2. Are there truly jobs in this field right now? Where do we find them? What search terms should we be looking for? And especially, what are the names for the entry and most junior level positions called? And then says some more about like how can I get into stuff where I could learn it along the way. Are there jobs? Yes. Are there a ton of them? I don't know. Full disclosure here, it has been a while since I've been looking for entry-level positions, and so I don't know how many entry-level positions are available. I did spend just a little bit of time looking up on LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter and Indeed right before this, and I'll admit I found a few less positions than I had expected. Depending on the search term, I was like between 80 and 300 jobs showing up in these lists. And some of them were for very senior positions, some of them were for more junior positions. So I don't think that there's a ton of jobs out there. It's not like it's really a job seekers market. It's a little bit tight, but I wouldn't say that there's nothing either. And since I'm not like constantly on the job market looking, I can't really say how much that's fluctuated over time. What I can say personally is that every time I've needed to look for a job, there have been a couple out there that were plausible. I maybe have had to wait a little while here or there to find the right one, but it hasn't been a crazy long time, and there were jobs that I could get into. And there was almost always contracting work that I could get into right away if I needed to and was willing to like take a much lower paycheck to do it. And so that makes me feel decent about my job security. That said, I'm not coming from the same position as you. I already have now an established resume and can say I've been doing this for a while. And so even if I'm willing to take a job that I'm overqualified for, I should be able to settle into it. It's always harder to break into the field than it is once you're in there. In terms of how I find the jobs, I think I included a little bit of this in the last video, but at the risk of being somewhat redundant here, or if you haven't watched that other video, here's where I would go to find a job. First thing I would do is just go to those major job web page platforms like LinkedIn and Indeed and ZipRecruiter, whatever. There are probably others out there. If other folks have a place you'd like to go, drop it below in the comments. I'd love to know what those others are, and you can help someone out. And then I would search these terms. I would look for ontology and ontologist. I'd look for taxonomy and taxonomist. I'd look for semantic web, knowledge graph, knowledge engineer, maybe information architect. I'd just look for semantics. And then I would look for things that are key to OWL RDF stuff. So I'd look for OWL and RDF. I would look for Sparkle. What else would show up there? I might look for like reasoning, inference, those kinds of pieces, but mostly like ontology, taxonomy, and knowledge graph, knowledge engineer. Those things are going to be the big hits. Oh, and I might as well speak to the other question was, how can you distinguish the more entry level versus the more senior level ones? Partly it's just some will say like entry versus senior. But the other thing, the biggest difference is taxonomy tends to be more entry level. Ontology tends to be a little more sophisticated and a little more senior. So other than like looking for the junior tag or whatever, if I'm seeing something more on taxonomy, that's like I'm building out a product hierarchy or something like that. And then when you do ontology, you're doing that and relationships between them and probably some more sophisticated graph algorithms and writing queries and stuff like that, maybe setting up a graph architecture. So that's the big difference I would look to. Alternatively, instead of just looking at those job search pages, you could go straight to the companies that you think are going to be hiring. And again, especially for you, Diogenes, or someone who's trying to break into it, I'm looking more for taxonomic roles to start with, which means any company that's got like a large internet catalog of products that you can buy, they have taxonomists. So Home Depot and Lowe's are going to have taxonomies for these things. I know Starbucks has ontologists. Amazon obviously has ontologists. Facebook, Meta, LinkedIn has ontologies and structures for these things. If you are looking, like anytime you've got a website with like a hamburger menu up top that like can help you search and sort through things, I'm thinking they've got ontologies there. And the larger the company is, the more likely that they have more taxonomists, and more, that means more roles. It also means lesser responsibility if you get a job there, and it means that you have more people to choose from for mentors. So look for a big company like that and just go to their careers page, or look specifically on their ontology or product catalog types of jobs that are somewhat adjacent and might get you into their ontology or semantic side. And then the third way to go, and this is the hardest route, but the best route if you can do it, is through your social or professional network. So Diogenes, you might be out of luck there. Like you're trying to do a pivot right now. Of course, it's great to reach out to people and try and find someone. You should do that. Reach out to them and say, hey, I saw your stuff. It's really cool. I want to break in and become an ontologist. Are there any jobs that you know of? Right? I mean, you're kind of doing that here, and I'm making a video for you. So hopefully this is helpful. But you might find someone else who's just starting a company or knows someplace to go to, or used to work at another company. Like those connections can be really valuable. It's harder to find those connections, but if you find them, they have a higher conversion rate into positions. So worth a shot. And then the one other thing, I think I mentioned this in my Pathways video, but like go look at consultancy firms that do ontology stuff or ontology contract work. And that might be a decent way in. Question 3. Do you see a long future for this field, or is it shrinking and slowing? Is AI coming for these jobs, or are they insulated from that concern for a while? Great question. I don't know. I can make the case both ways, and I think being able to make the case both ways has me think it cancels out somewhat, and there's a decent future for the field. Let me make the pro and the con case, and then you can see if one of them is more compelling or if you think they cancel out. But that's where I land. And like, cards on the table here, I want to be optimistic about ontology. I'm an ontologist. I'd love for it to be really popular and lucrative and have lots of job security. So I want that to be the true answer. Why do we think it should be good? Why is it great to be an ontologist? Well, AI is big. AI will continue to be big. Whether the bubble pops or any of those things happen, AI is here to stay, and AI needs a model of reality to ground it. We have data that is all over the place. The future is filled with data, and when it's filled with data, we need that data to be able to speak a common language that machines and humans can understand it and wrangle it together. And what does those things? Ontologies. And who builds those? Ontologists. So I am bullish that no matter how the future goes, there's going to be a ton of value and need for good ontologies, which means there's got to be a ton of value and need for good ontologists. And so that makes me feel somewhat secure. Let me do the con side, though. The con side is that I said, well, the AI bubble may or may not burst. There's a lot of good reasons to think the AI bubble is going to burst. One of those might be that we just have like NVIDIA selling stuff to Microsoft, who's selling stuff back to NVIDIA, or like investing out. We realize that there wasn't as much there as we thought, and bad stuff ensues. And when bad stuff ensues and a lot of money goes out of the economy, and especially in what's related to artificial intelligence, then all the jobs in AI are hit and hit very hard. And ontologists might be hit very hard by that. And it might not be warranted. Maybe ontologies are still necessary, but people are going to say, AI screwed us over, and so we're just not going to invest in it right now. And that might be specifically because they think that AI is overpromised and underdelivered, or it could just be that if the economy is hurt and things are struggling a little bit, people and companies are focused not on long-term development and gains, but they're focused on what makes money and shores stuff up here and now. And as much as I love ontology, ontology's real value proposition is often in the much longer term. It gives you reuse and reapplication. But if I had to build one application that works now today or works tomorrow, I don't need an ontology to do that. I might be hardwiring something. And if the economy crunches down and there's some negative sentiments against artificial intelligence, then I could see that hurting the field. Those are the two cases. I don't know which one wins out. That's what has me thinking that like there's probably a little bit of both is true. And so the ontology will be okay. I don't think it's a crazy good field to get into. I don't think it's a terrible field to get into. I feel like there's going to be some job security there. But this is all speculation. Who knows what the economy is going to do? Who knows exactly what AI is going to look like in 1 to 5 years? Question 4. Could you maybe say something about closely related and adjacent jobs that interested folks might also look for if we're not dead set on ontology specifically, but want to search broadly for similar things? Yeah. Again, I haven't worked in those other jobs, but I come up against a lot of programmers. And I think there is a real shortage for programmers and engineers who are graph savvy, right? So someone who knows Python super well, knows how to, build and run an ETL process for a database, but also really understands what the semantic web stands for, what OWL-RDF is, how to leverage graph databases in particular. So being a programmer, I think, is a more stable job. There's some tough things for programming right now with the advent of AI coding assistants, which I don't think is so great that it's going to take away your jobs. But again, the sentiment might be problematic for a while. But we could use more good programmers who want to work with semantics. I've had a couple of folks that I've worked with in the past, like Justin in particular. If you're watching my channel, you know who you are. He's great. I need more people like Justin. Other things that you might look into, anything that has to deal with graph RAG, so LLMs that want to use retrieval augmented generation, that's a good place where ontologies and semantics meet up with LLMs. That could be cool. Data science roles, I think in general, have need for data in all sorts of formats, and graph data and graph analysis. If you got into doing data science, you could find ways to do more with graph data going forward. Database engineers, I think I mentioned that, programmers, and then information architecture, I think, is in this same space too. Okay, so there were the 4 parts of Diogenes Clay's questions. Thanks so much, Diogenes, for that. I hope you found these responses helpful. To be honest with you, I think this is my 3rd time cutting this video, because each time I was like, there were more things I wanted to add or a different thing, or I thought, this isn't helpful enough, because really what I want to have happen is say, like, yes, you should be an ontologist. Here's the specific job you should apply for. And yes, your job will be secure. And I just don't have enough details to that. I don't have the magic wand to make that happen. But I hope my responses here have been like informative and maybe a little bit inspirational, and will help send you in the right direction. And I hope that's true not just for you, Diogenes, but the other people who are watching as well. If you've got follow-up questions, any of you, drop them down below in the comments. And what would also be really helpful, if you have any suggestions of your own. Do you know of some positions? Do you know some great places to look for ontology jobs? Do you have any like magic reasons to think that ontology will be great or terrible in the future, so that we can do a better job forecasting? This is really an appeal to my channel, small though it may be, to my channel's community. So help each other. Let's get some information out there, and let's make the world a better place for you and all of the other ontologists and honorary ontologists out there. Love you all. I will see you next time.